to all. My name is Astrid Wade, and I will be your chairman for today's proceedings. A warm and heartfelt welcome is extended to all who have come to the 2023 National Hurricane Conference. We hope that your attendance here today is your further commitment in aiding the DMCA to carry out its mandate in keeping the population of Montserrat safe, informed, and prepared for the 2023 hurricane season. With no further ado, I will now call on Mr. Joseph Irish to evoke God's presence on today's proceedings. Mr. Irish. Stand please for prayer.
Good morning, one and all. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you for your saving grace and mercy. We thank you for life, health, and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Lord, I'm asking you to bless this proceeding here, Lord. Help that we will have a fruitful discussion, Lord. Lord, I'm asking you for your grace and mercy to be upon Montserrat. We know that preparedness will save life, but however, we ask for your grace so that throughout this season, this hurricane season, Montserrat will not encounter any hurricane. Lord, thank you as we go forward, Lord, and in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Irish. Her Excellency, the Governor Acting, Mrs. Lyndon Simpson, Honorable Acting Premier, Dr. Samuel Joseph, Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Housing, Land and Environment, Mr. Cranston Buffon, Honorable Acting Minister of Education and Health, Mrs. Veronica Hector Dorset, Permanent Secretaries, Directors, fellow colleagues, Commissioner of Police, fellow colleagues, good morning. Good morning. Okay. I will now call to the podium the Acting Governor, Mrs. Simpson, to give her remarks. Acting Governor.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As if we needed a reminder as to where we were in the calendar year, we have already seen the formation of Tropical Storm Arlene in the Gulf of Mexico. Therefore, we must prepare now before we are threatened by a storm or a hurricane. While the forecasters advise us to brace for a near normal season, we all know that it only takes one storm to impact us, and therefore we must be prepared. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is forecasting between 12 to 17 named storms with winds of at least 39 miles per hour. Of these storms, 5 to 9 are expected to become hurricanes, including 4 major hurricanes at Category 3 or above. We have all seen and witnessed the devastation caused by tropical storms and hurricanes on Montserrat and in neighboring islands. We must stay informed and be prepared, be ready for whatever Mother Nature has in store for us. I am therefore appealing to everyone to assist the vulnerable in our communities across Montserrat with their hurricane preparations. You can call a meeting with your staff, family, and friends, and talk through what needs to be done and how you will respond to any significant weather events during this hurricane season. We cannot afford to be complacent. We all have to do our part to be ready for the unknown. Do take the time to examine your homes and businesses. Clear up any loose items on your property. Stock up on essential supplies. Each time you visit the supermarket or hardware store, collect a few items and build your emergency kit. Ensure you consult your physician and stock up on adequate medical supplies and medicines early. Businesses in particular must plan how they can protect their businesses and staff. There are many options for business continuity. You should begin to explore them now. Backing up your information and data, for example, is essential, and there are cost-effective options to assist you in doing so. Throughout the season, please ensure you can receive the latest updates from government sources, such as the Disaster Management Coordination Agency and ZJB Radio. No matter what happens this year, we must ensure we enter this hurricane season as prepared as we can be. Government will continue to focus on key priority areas: getting emergency shelters ready, protecting our critical national assets, clearing our waterways, improving our drainage, and, of course, helping the vulnerable. I especially want to use this opportunity to remind heads of departments who have not yet submitted their 2023 hurricane plans to do so by the end of next week. The Disaster Management Coordination Agency is preparing to ensure the public remains safe and secure should Montserrat be impacted by a storm or hurricane. The United Kingdom government will also continue to work closely with the government of Montserrat to support hurricane preparations, and the UK government is putting plans in place to ensure that it is ready to help if needed. Each of us have a role to play to reduce our risks of storms and hurricanes and the associated hazards and impacts. Regardless of the forecast, below, near, or above average, it only takes one storm hitting Montserrat to cause major destruction. By staying informed, remaining prepared, and working together as communities, we can face the challenges this hurricane season. Therefore, together, let us be prepared and stay prepared. May God bless you all and this beautiful island of Montserrat. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for those very thought-filling remarks. I would now like to call to the podium Acting Premier, Dr. Samuel Joseph, to give his remarks. Acting Premier.
Good day. It is said that Montserrat is good at handling disasters. I don't know if that's a good thing or if it's a bad thing, or it means that we are blessed, or it means that we are cursed. You could interpret it however you want. But Montserrat has gone through a lot of different disasters, from Hugo, hurricanes, pandemics, and other situations. And in general, we have been good at handling them. But this occurs because as a people, we have taken the necessary steps to ensure that we are protected from them. So I know when Hugo came and these other big hurricanes come, we do take the advice of the DMC and these other people who are working very hard to protect us. And we do clear our drains, we do cut down our trees, We have our hurricane plans, we have our business continuity plans, we have our shelters, we bar up our buildings, we take all the plyboards from Osborne and other places, and we do bar out our places. We generally get winds and storms, and it goes through, and then we hear about the destruction, the same hurricanes or the same storm that passes over Montserrat, passes over the other islands, and you hear this other great destruction that happens, and in Montserrat we get a little wet, some things fall on the road, and public work goes out and clear it, and by the end of the day, everything is good. But this occurs because we as a people go out and actually follow the instructions and do the steps that we take. And we can't become complacent and think that because we haven't had any hurricanes for the past couple of years, or we haven't had anything major, so that we are good and that we are blessed people and we don't have to worry about such things. And I hear Brother Irish already predicted and said there will be none this year. But we still have to be careful, that we have to be prepared and stay prepared, because it only takes one. And this is one of the reasons why we have conferences like this and remarks like this, is to remind the public that no matter what happens, the steps that we as a people have to take, we still have to take. And we do know that we going forward, because of global warming and other environmental and climate issues, hurricanes are going to come, and they're going to come stronger and stronger. And you can see that showing up in ways that you have not thought about, because I'm pretty sure if you go and check your insurance rates and check your building insurance, people are going to tell you that rates are going up and that you have to pay more for your house and other insurance. That is because the expectation is that going forward, hurricanes are going to become stronger more often, and they are calculating that risk into their premium. So we as a people need to understand that these things are coming, and we have to prepare for them and make sure that we're there. And the government of Montserrat has taken certain steps to try to assist in the situation. One is to assist the DMCA and the Office of the Governor in the disaster preparedness. And also there's a current SR out that if you want to bring in your generators and your shutters and other such things, they can come in duty-free, so that if you do have the resources or you don't have the necessary resources, it will be easier for you to import this stuff at this time so that you can get your preparation done. So I'm asking those who can or who haven't done so far to actually go out and take advantage of these things that has been done by the government, to try to assist the DMCA and the other agencies in their preparation for the storms that we know that are coming. And in general, as a country, we need to understand also that no matter how much progress we make, it only takes one hurricane, in the case, like you say, to Dominica Anguilla, to set us all the way back to square one. So it is, again, vitally important that we might think it's too much to go and get the plyboard, or it's too much to get the radio, or too much to do these things. And we've been doing it year in and year in, and nothing happens. Because interestingly, what happens when people take the advice of agencies and they do everything right, and then the disaster comes and nothing happens, they get complacent because they say, look, they give all this warning, look, they say all these things, and look, nothing happened to me. But nothing happened because you took the advice. So although we have been lucky and we are blessed people, we still have to ensure, again, to reiterate, that we take all the necessary precautions, and some things that we don't think about, because we talk about listening to ZJB, or we all know modern, and we listen to ZJB on our phones. We don't listen to ZJB on our radios with batteries. We're too modern for that. But you do need a radio. You do things like that, yes, you say you listen to radio. If Wi-Fi goes and your phone goes and you don't have a battery backup, you have no way of hearing what's happening anywhere when the all clear is given and it's safe to go out. So simple things like that we might not consider, that you still need the old-time radio. Despite the world is moving, we still have to go back sometime, back to basic, and get these things. And all the advice that the Deputy Governor gave about the things that we need to do, let us take those into consideration. And for the rest of the meeting, all the advice that we given by the DMC and the other government officials that we as a people need to do, let us take them serious and let us go through them, because I am convinced, as Joseph is, that nothing is going to happen. But in case that something happens, let us be prepared. I thank you.
Thank you, Acting Premier, for your remarks. I'd now like to call to the podium the Director of the Disaster Management Coordination Agency, Lieutenant Colonel Alvin Ryan, for his remarks. Mr. Ryan.
Good morning, all. It's always a lot of pressure being the third batsman. But from what I've heard thus far, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. A near normal Atlantic hurricane season is predicted this year by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. This forecast is slightly more favorable than last year's, as the indications are that we are expected to face less storms this season, and this will be expounded upon in a later presentation. For the past several seasons, we at the Disaster Management Coordination Agency, DMCA, have been advocating caution and the need to take these predictions into context, because it really does only take one storm impacting Montserrat to cause severe damage to our island's future prospects. We must bear in mind the damage even a weak storm or just a severe rain event can cause at certain areas on Montserrat, including especially the Belém Valley. If you have not already done so, we are urging all residents and visitors to take actions now to ensure that your homes, businesses, and families are adequately prepared for this year's hurricane season. We have indeed been blessed by relatively low storm and hurricane impacts for a few years now. But let us not turn that blessing into a curse by being complacent. I dare say that we do have the reputation of being a resilient people, but we must recognize that complacency can kill resilience. Therefore, we must remember who or what the enemy is and guard against them at all times for the sake of our families and our island. This is why we at the DMCA constantly emphasize the importance of early preparedness, regardless of the predictions. I must admit, it can be a bit challenging coming here each year, seemingly saying the same thing. But on top of it being part of my job, I think it is a very important and worthwhile venture. Being prepared for the hurricane season can really help reduce the impacts of storms on our communities, and it can save lives, which is, of course, the ultimate goal. The following are tangible steps you can take in preparation for the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season. Stay informed. Arm yourself with as much information as possible, for knowledge is power. But remember, pay special attention to the official sources such as DMCA's webpage, dmca.gov.ms, our Facebook and Twitter pages, and ZJB Radio. Please get yourselves a copy of the 2023 Montserrat Hurricane Preparedness Guide, which will be available at locations throughout the island. Being aware of potential threats empowers you to make informed decisions and take necessary actions promptly. Create a family emergency plan. Establish a clear, comprehensive plan with your family or household members, whether written down or simply discussed. Include designated meeting points in case of separation, contact information, and shelter locations. Ensure that everyone understands their roles and responsibilities, and make special arrangements for those with special needs, and of course, your pets. Assemble an emergency kit. Prepare a well-stocked disaster kit with essential items, including non-perishable food, water, flashlights, batteries, medications, first aid supplies, important documents, and, of course, a portable radio. Be sure to rotate your perishable items periodically. Secure your property. Assess your property for vulnerabilities and take steps to strengthen them against potential storm damage. Trim trees, reinforce windows and doors, secure loose outdoor items, and consider investing in hurricane shutters or impact-resistant materials. Review insurance coverage. Review your insurance policies, including homeowners, renters, and flood insurance. Ensure that you have adequate coverage to mitigate against property damage and loss of possessions. Consider flood insurance even if you do not live in a high-risk flood zone. Be a good neighbor. Reach out to your neighbors, particularly the elderly or those with limited mobility, to check on their preparedness plans. Help if needed, and keep alive that sense of community support and resilience. Maintain communication. Keep your cell phones charged and have alternate means of communicating in case of power outages. Share your plans with your wider family and friends. Please don't wait until a storm or hurricane watch is issued, because it may already be too late to take certain precautions. Take steps now to prepare yourself and your loved ones for this year's hurricane season. Let us all continue to work together to ensure a nationally coordinated response, for disaster management is all our business. Be as safe as possible this hurricane season, and always remember, be prepared, stay prepared. It only takes one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan, for your remarks. Moving right along, this is the moment I think that most of you are waiting. So I will now call on the Information and Education Officer at the DMCA, Ms. Shirley Creeley, to give you the outlook and forecast for the 2023 hurricane season. Ms. Creeley.
Protocol already has been established. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so my task this morning is to present the 2023 hurricane predictions. Several months before the season starts, several well-known groups of meteorologists make predictions about how active the upcoming season will be. Hurricane forecasts are usually issued twice, initially in April or May in advance of the June season start, then an update in August, just before the historical September peak of the hurricane season. Hurricanes are based on past data, climate change-related influences, modeling, and seasonal patterns of tropical cyclone activity. Now, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, forecasters predicts a near normal hurricane season in the Atlantic this year. If you look at the pie chart here, NOAA is saying that there's a 40% chance of a near normal season, a 30% chance of above normal season, and a 30% chance also of a below normal season. Of course, the biggest percentage is 40%. So they're expecting a near normal season. That is 12 to 17 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, and 1 to 4 major hurricanes. Now, the upcoming hurricane season is expected to be less active than recent years due to competing factors, some that suppress storm development and some that fuel it, driving this year's overall forecast for a near normal season for some and above for others. And basically, this is conflicting climate factors. It's been really difficult because if you look at the chart here, NOAA Colorado and the weather company are calling, as well as AccuWeather, are calling for a near average hurricane season, while Dale Dexton, the UK Met, and the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology is calling for an above average. Now, I also look at other institutions as well who are also calling for an above average season, and this is because they are expecting El Nino and warm ocean temperatures. So after 3 years with La Nina, so the factors that drive the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season, after 3 years with La Nina conditions with favor hurricane development, NOAA scientists predict with a 60% chance for El Nino to develop this summer, which can suppress hurricane season activity. However, but El Nino's potential influence on storm development could be offset by other favorable conditions local to the tropical Atlantic basin. So although they are predicting that El Nino can suppress Atlantic hurricane activity, which normally would be expected to increase vertical wind shear, and you know if you have wind shear, it basically suppresses the development and growth of tropical storms from developing, and that is the purpose of the El Nino. But also, you have warmer than normal sea surface temperatures in the tropical Atlantic Ocean and in the Caribbean Sea during the whole season, above normal West African monsoon, which produces African easterly waves that seed some of the stronger and the longer-lived Atlantic storms, and you have reduced tropical trade winds. And vertical wind shear is likely to increase to a high level during the main period of the hurricane season. So although they are expecting an El Nino phenomena this hurricane season, there are other factors that are still driving an above average hurricane season for some forecasters, because although you have El Nino, which is going to suppress hurricane activity, there are other factors there that can still ensure that we have an active hurricane season. Okay, so when they speak about warmer than average sea surface temperatures, this is looking at the current Atlantic Ocean water temperature map. And that was taken yesterday, recorded yesterday. So if you look at the map, and the other one is the current Caribbean Sea water temperature map. And the other one is the current water sea temperature map. So if you look at the maps, you can see basically that the sea temperature is really, really warm. And that is one of the reasons they are forecasting that we're going to have some level of hurricane activity, although we're in an El Nino situation. Okay? Now, this is also the El Nino graph. So what they say now, La Nina has faded, and you can see El Nino is forecast to develop in June, July, September. But although we may have El Nino, there are other factors that are driving the forecast for a near normal season, and for some others, an above average hurricane season. So although we're going to have El Nino, which suppresses hurricane activity, there are other factors that are at play also this year. So during an El Nino season, we have more activity in the Pacific and less activity in the Caribbean, as well as the Atlantic as well. Now, we spoke about West African monsoon, and based on past data, this is from 1994 to 2020. And if you look at the August, you could see where we may have, there's more likely of West African monsoon developing in our area. And that's for August. And for September, we have similar coming up as well, and that's the West African monsoon. And basically, just to remind you, the West African monsoon waves which seeds some of the stronger and the longer-lived Atlantic storms. Excellent. Okay, so this one is looking at the Caribbean landfall threat forecast. So I looked at two, Crown Weather Services and CSU. And basically, Crown Weather Services, they have a low threat level of landfall, whereas the Colorado State University, they are saying that there's a 49% probability of a major hurricane making landfall in the Caribbean. And that is based on the average from 1880 to 2020, which is 47%. Now, I also look at the similarities for the past 3 years. Now, if you look at 2020, we had La Nina phenomena present, 2021 and 2022, and we have it absent for this year, 2023. However, we have warmer than normal sea surface temperatures, tropical Atlantic Ocean, in the tropical Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, reduced tropical Atlantic trade winds above normal West African monsoon, and increased vertical wind shear. So if you look at 2020, although they didn't have the absence of La Nina, that we should have an average normal hurricane season. No. We are looking at El Nino hurricane years. So scientists are predicting that we're going to have El Nino. So what can we expect during an El Nino hurricane year? In 1982, considered a strong El Nino year, meteorologists recorded less activity, just 6 tropical storms, 2 hurricanes, and 1 major hurricane in the Atlantic. In 1997, a strong El Nino season, there was 8 tropical storms, 3 hurricanes, and 1 major hurricane. In 2009, the last El Nino, classified as moderate, occurred in 2009. There were 9 tropical storms, 3 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. Hurricane Erica was the strongest and longest lasting tropical cyclone in the 1997 Atlantic hurricane season, and the forecast near normal season, warm oceans, and light wind shear. Erica passed a short distance to the north of the Lesser Antilles. However, Montserrat received light rainfall and winds, and it was said the passage of Erica carried a cloud of volcanic ash to Antigua from the eruption of the Soufriere Hills volcano, and that was a rare occurrence. And so basically, this is what happens in a El Nino hurricane year. So yes, we may have less hurricane activity, less storms, but it only takes one. And you can see we have Tropical Storm Erica that passed close to us in 2009. Now, here we're looking at the Atlantic hurricane and tropical storm activity. So basically, the peak is normally between September 10th. Okay. Now, so far for this year, the Arlene, the first named storm of the 2003 Atlantic hurricane season, formed in the Gulf, and we have a tropical disturbance in the northeastern Atlantic Ocean. The system is not a threat to Montserrat, and that is what's happening. Now, these are the hazards associated with hurricanes and the storms: flash floods, storm surge, and storm tide. Heavy rainfall, lahars, mud flows, flooding, high winds, rip currents, tornadoes, landslides, and rockfalls. Now, the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, the Climate Outlook, they are predicting that we will have a moderate flash floods, right? So if you look where Montserrat is, they're suggesting a 20 to 50% chance of flash flood between June to July and August this year. Okay? Now, this is the 2023 Atlantic tropical names. Arlene, gone. So hurricanes are tropical storms that have impacted Montserrat in recent history. So we have the list there of the tropical storms that have impacted Montserrat in recent history. Okay, so a tropical storm, it means that a tropical storm conditions with sustained winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour are possible within the specified coastal or land area within 48 hours. Tropical storm warning, it means that tropical storm conditions with sustained winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour are expected within the specified coastal or land area within 36 hours. Hurricane conditions with sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or higher are possible somewhere within the specified coastal or land area because hurricane preparedness activities become difficult once winds reach tropical storm force. The hurricane watch is issued 48 hours in advance of the anticipated onset of tropical storm force winds. So hurricane warning is made that the hurricane conditions with sustained winds of 74 miles per hour higher are expected somewhere within the specified coastal or land area. And that is the Saffir-Simpson scale. It shows you the different category. Category 1, 74 to 95 miles per hour, very dangerous winds will produce some damage. Category 2, 96 to 110 miles per hour. Category 3, 111 to 129 miles per hour. And Category 4, 130 to 156 miles per hour. And Category 5, 157 miles per hour or higher. And that's the various categories. The 2023 hurricane guides are available. Okay. And just to remind you, some key notes I just want to remind you. So we have some time to wait to see what the season will bring. El Nino typically means trouble for the Pacific and a break for the Atlantic coast and the Caribbean. But while this climate phenomenon is highly likely to form this year, it isn't a certainty before hurricane season ramps up this year, and that makes it harder to know what might happen. But if the West African monsoon can churn up waves, those storms could start to move across the Atlantic by August and September. Time will only tell whether El Nino will suppress tropical development in the Atlantic or if the African monsoon and warmer sea surface temperatures will be enough to boost storm development this season. It is also important to remember that even in quiet years, a single storm can cause enormous destruction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quealy. And you can save your questions for Ms. Quealy for the following segment. I now call to the podium the logistics officer, operations and logistics officer at the DMCA, Mr. Kelvin White, to give you the DMCA's hurricane readiness. Mr. White.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have been given these instructions by the technical staff. Okay. All right. Just as a little introduction, I had a side chat with the Honorable Minister this morning, and his question to me, are we going to hear the same thing as we heard last year? And confidently, I said yes. And I said that to say preparation, ground roots preparation does not change from year to year. There are certain things that you're expected to do. That does not change. In terms of what you do last year should affect how you approach this year. But in terms of DMCA, our ground roots preparation does not change. So, next slide. I try my best to keep it short and to the point. So we'll be covering 3 categories this morning, and that would be operations, communication, and shelters. Next slide. The DMCA each year goes through its preparation, which starts the 1st of December, which coincidentally is the day after the hurricane season ends. And I say that we start that preparation because as it gets closer to June, it is ramped up. So we try to maintain our EOC in a state of readiness. We look at our preparations in terms of inspection of our shelters, which have been carried out, our standby generators at the office and at the repeater sites that were expected. If anything should go wrong, it keeps the country running. Our warehouse, we must say thank you to the FCDO, which we are still benefiting from, that we have carried out our warehouse inventory, and we can say that we are in a state of readiness as relates to our emergency supplies. I tell persons each year, from when it gets to the 1st of June, my life changes and resolves around watching weather forecasts 3 and 4 times a day. And that's this sad life until when it tells me it's the end of the hurricane season. You'll hear from trade as it relates to our stocks, but we do still tap into the local supermarkets to find out where they are in terms of non-perishables. If we should be impacted by a storm and the EOC is activated, there are certain fundamental things that we need to have in place, right? So we need to make sure that we have the necessary forms in place to facilitate an EOC operation if it does happen. Next slide. The Deputy Governor, Acting Governor made mention of plans. It is not only the outside agencies who have to ensure that their plans are in place. So we do have to review our internal plans. And specifically, our hurricane guide, our hurricane plan, and the DMCA. Just as we ask you as an individual or as a department to look at your plan, we do have an internal plan as relates to how we would operate if we should be impacted also. Our crown jewel as relates to keeping you alert, our emergency early warning systems. Kudos to our technical team for keeping this system up and running. And I must put a plug in here that seeing that we have the relevant ears, that we are looking for the support to have this system upgraded. It has been in existence since 2006, and it's in dire need of upgrade. Our satellite phones. If you do have satellite phones, some agencies may have new phones. We would hope that you can share those information with us, because that would be relevant for us if we have to activate, that we know how to get in contact with you. If for any reason that the telecom system is down, that's an alternate mean of us communicating. Our government vehicles are a very contentious point when it comes to an activation. But we need to know what vehicles that we have available and are operational. So this is one aspect of us ensuring that if we're activated, we know what resources that we have available to us. I must say, there are some agencies who have benefited from the asset of the drone that the DMCA has. And I think it has supported environment, agriculture, different agencies. We need to build redundancy like everybody else. And I must say thank you for the FCDO in terms of we have acquired a new drone which would assist us, as it says there, in our planning and our response operationally. All right, and I can't say thank you enough for this asset. Next slide, please. Emergency telecommunication systems. It doesn't have to be radios. It doesn't have to be telephones. But we have tested, as I said, our satellite phones, VHF radios. This is the handheld, the HF radios. We just about 2 weeks ago, we were part of the Region RAP communication exercise. This was organized by CDMA each year, where as OTs and members of CDMA, we have this exercise where we try to test our system to see how far reaching we can get. One of the focus this year with the OTs that we shared WhatsApp numbers, office numbers, and so on, so that in the event of anything that we know that we are in contact, or we can be in contact with each other. Antigua is the regional focal point for CDMA for our region. So we do have exercises, radio communication exercises with Antigua on a regular basis, but we had the opportunity to do this on a regional level just in the last 2 weeks. We have, on a national, on a more localized level, persons, we have been advocating communication is one of the most important aspects of emergency when we have to activate, being able to talk to one another. But what I can say, the DMCA has a communication system that can assist you as a department, that if you need to, we can communicate on a daily basis. So if you want to, you can reach out to the director. If you get your radios, our system can facilitate you without you having to go out and actually start from scratch. So this is a plugin. Some of the other agencies in the past, since 2015, 2016, who have benefited from being able to speak to us and having a system that they can use for daily operations. As you can see, airport, police, fire, MVO, DF, customs, public works, health, prison, and our disaster chairpersons. So we do still have enough space on the platform that we can actually support persons if they do want to. If you get your radios, you can be put on the platform and we can stay connected. Next slide, please. Our 2023 shelter inspections have been completed. And I must say thank you to the Comms and Works team and the Montserrat Fire Rescue Services, who every year have contributed to this process. And I have to put a plug in down at the bottom that we endeavor to bolster our shelter stock each year. And we have had discussions with the Braids Pentecostal Church Board to look at getting the Arts and Education Center as a designated emergency shelter. COVID came and kind of derailed that project, but I hope that we can restart dialogue and getting that on stream. Also, we know that we had reached the point where drawings and so on were already done, and funding was, I think, was one of the major issues why this has not come to fruition, but I would hope that we can revisit that going forward. And I must tell you, our shelters are ready for activation. Coming out of the inspection, there were minor issues that would be addressed, but it does not curtail that if we should have a storm on our doorsteps tomorrow, that we're not ready to open the doors and to receive the populace of Montserrat. Next slide, please. So this is just a brief overview. It is not totally confirmed as yet because we're still waiting on some information from the technical staff from Comms and Works, but this is overall what we're looking at in terms of our shelters at this time. Next slide. So going forward, what we're looking at is to continue more radio training, internal training, and to support our district chairpersons. Thank you.
And I forgot to say, you can note your questions, and you can ask them when we have our question and answer segment. I'll now call on the Acting Director of Communication Works, Labor and Energy, Mr. Prasad, to give us an update on our infrastructure and anything related to that ministry. Mr. Prasad.
Thank you very much. Protocol established. And good morning to all. Let me just say that the Ministry of Communication, Works, Energy, and Labor, through Public Works Department, is responsible, and we take that very seriously, for ensuring that the island's infrastructure, to include roads, bridges, culverts, and the drainage systems, are in good working condition. We too hold the responsibility for government and community buildings used as hurricane shelters, and we go to the length and breadth to make sure that whatever and if ever we should have just that one, that its damage is minimized through the passage of whatever storm or hurricane. To date, we would have completed works on our river and gut crossings to include the Nancy's River, Runaway Gut, Cassava Gut, Soldier's Gut, Bazzies, Collins. We have done some sort of improvement to the Amos Gut below Desert Storm, and we are continuing to improve another segment of that river crossing. Hopefully we'll get it done before, and if ever, there is only one. I refer to the storm, but for whatever it's worth, it's on the least or on the low side of things should we experience a passage of a storm. We would have done some improvement works also to areas that were recently affected by flash flooding, on the Braids Main Road. And specifically, we looked at increasing our volume intake, and enhancing its accommodating network for a large volume of water. In relation to the built environment, we would have looked at ensuring that we have an updated list of contractors that can be called upon to shutter up government accommodation facilities within hurricane warning of 36 to 48 hours. Of course, the ministry would be guided by NDPRAC, DMC, and of course, its accounting officer. To date, and my colleague would have mentioned earlier, in terms of hurricane shelters, public work technicians would have assisted in ensuring that those facilities are fit for purpose. You also made reference to a bit of outstanding work. I don't believe it's significant, but of course I'll take the information back to my technician to make sure that it's completed, so that we have all our facilities in good order, fit for purpose, and ready for use, if necessary. Our department would have also secured a list of private owners who has essential equipment and have them to strategically position equipment across the islands when it comes to, and if needs be, clearing of roadways and river crossings. That list is intact, and our contractors in the private sector stands ready to assist. The department also have its essential equipment to include our D8 and our grader and other essential equipment. And of course, I'm aware that DMC have some of those equipment too that can be utilized if needs be. In relation to should we experience a disaster, we do have a prioritized list of areas to tackle after the passage of a storm. And we will look firstly to attack the Bellum crossing, the Lookout, and to the new Windward. We also have responsibility to look after the John A. Osborne Airport and the Montserrat Volcano Observatory. Road to Little Bay, Port Facility, Codgerhead Police Station through Bars East to St. John's, Nixon's Bypass, other main and secondary roads. We will then embark to clear debris and hazards from all government buildings and its surrounding area. Last but by certainly no mean least, our electrical power station. In terms of communication, my colleague Raphael would have shared earlier that Public Works is one such department that would have leaned on them to assist us with the various gadgets that are available. And we continue to collaborate with DMCA for that. Once that disaster is over, the ministry will also utilize its technician to undertake a rapid assessment to ascertain the extent of damage caused and the cost for immediate repair. Those are also in good order. Templates are established, and lessons learned in the past have also been set up within the ministry's repository. Quick way to go to and to pull rates and to pull templates and to gather the necessary information that will be required to move forward. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. I now call on Mr. Ryan to give his closing remarks for this segment, and then we'll go into our works segment of today's proceedings.
Thank you, Astrid. Don't be alarmed, however. I won't really be giving any remarks except to say I'd just like to extend special thanks to my staff, first and foremost, for all the hard work in putting this year's preparations together. I would also like to thank all of us who are here participating this morning. I appreciate your presence. I also appreciate the attention of those who are listening online as well. Thank you to the various stakeholders for their presentations and input. And I would just like to, I was asked to specifically thank Mr. Philip Braid of Philomagic for all his hard work and for donating his talents in terms of our audio for today. Thank you. I would also like to thank the GIU team, ZJB Radio for broadcasting this event, and especially thank and recognize Acting Governor Mrs. Simpson, and also our Acting Premier, Mr. Joseph, for being here and contributing to today's proceedings. And I think that brings me to the close of these brief remarks. I'd just like to say we are venturing into the season. We haven't had any impacts as yet, so we still have time to complete our preparations. Let's use that time wisely. Get home safely. Thank you. Well, back to work.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.